Welcome, Military Tales fans, to another great interview. Today, we're going to be speaking with none other than Jim Begley, an absolute fixture in the A-1 Skyraider community. Jim served with the 602nd from 1968 to 69.
So, Jim, can you tell me your name and your unit and the years you served?
My name is Jim Begley. I flew the A-1 in 1968 and 69 out of Nakhon Phanom, NKP, in the 602nd Fighter Squadron. And obviously I flew it for a couple months before down at Hurlburt, learning how to fly it back in the late summer of 1968. It was my first assignment out of pilot training. I was the second lieutenant going through. I had the distinction of being one of the first 4 people taken right out of pilot training for the A-1. In pilot training, toward the end of pilot training, basically the Air Force sends down a list of available aircraft and assignments. Big list put up on the board, and everybody by not rank order, but everybody by merit order, that is, the order in which they're finishing pilot training accomplishments, whatever, gets to vote. And the time-honored tradition that was there, still in place when I went through pilot training, somewhere around March of 1968, we're all herded into a big classroom, and one of the staff members there writes all these things in chalk on the board. Number 1, such and such airplane. Number 2, such and such airplane. Number 3, etc. And also, for some of them, it included bases. So you might have 5 C-141 assignments available, and one of them's to this base, 2 of them are to that base, 2 to that base, 1 to the, etc. So for my class, there were 25 choices. Okay, numbers 1 through 25. And then in order of standing in the class, we'd be called on. One of the student squadron officers there would say, for example, Lieutenant Beggerly, what's your choice? What's your first choice? A-1s, like that. That class was the first one. That was class 68F, 6806. That class was the first class to be offered A-1s as part of the graduation assignments. There had been a couple of people taken previous to that were en route to other assignments and got canceled or whatever, that were right out of pilot training that had been taken in, but ours was the first class to have them. Those days, 3 bases graduated together. In this case, it was Vance Air Force Base, Oklahoma, Reese Air Force Base, Texas, and Laughlin Air Force Base, Texas. So in the pool of pilots, there were about 150 of us there to choose from this list. And the secretary was on the telephone over there to track what the other bases were doing and all of this. And gradually these things would get erased off the board as they were taken up. Mine was easy. I was number 1 in that group of 150. Number 1 in flying. So I got to choose first, and I got what I wanted. And ever since, I had been sitting at the Memorial Student Center at A&M one time. We're sitting there, a group of us, having coffee, and I saw this big airplane with this big propeller on it, and these guys standing in front of it with various headgear, including the old go-to-hell hat and all of that. I looked at that and said, that's the airplane I want. It's the last of a breed. My dad had been a pilot in the Air Force, so I had a little heritage there. But it's the last of a breed.
It was the end of the prop-driven.
It was it.
For fighters.
For fighters, fighter bombers. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I told the guys there at the table, looking at that picture, it happened to be a picture from the 6th SOS at Pleiku. But they're all standing out there in front of the airplane and all that. That's what I'm going to do. So I got the airplane as my assignment and went down to Hurlburt, sent down there TDY for the training. And again, a nice time of year to go. Started training around the middle of June and finished up around the first part of September. Done with training, time to go over. Interesting trip over. I think 6 of us class members met at San Francisco for the departure over there. Just, scheduling. And in those days, everybody had to go through jungle survival school, popularly known as snake school. So we meet at San Francisco International, and we're waiting. We're going to get on this contract airline cattle car, and we're going to head over there. And one of the lieutenant colonel, well, kind of getting together, and one of the lieutenant colonels says, and I have a bottle of whiskey to make this trip a little bit easier. And so we went in relative comfort over to Clark Air Base for the jungle school. A couple of side stories there, but I'll tell you those later, okay? Got to Nakhon Phanom, and I knew that I was going to be, was assigned to the 602nd. And the guy that was going to be my roommate, John Ewing, was with me. We've traveled up there together, and he was going to be in the same squadron. We got to Nakhon Phanom in late September and checked in there. And, okay, here's your bunks. Our room, they didn't have a room for us yet, but we had one guy on leave and one guy MIA. So John and I stayed in that room for a couple of days till we got our stuff all together, life support, get measured and all that, parachutes, all that. My first flight, we started off flying over there with what's called theater orientation. Theater orientation, as you can imagine, the guys just getting there, like myself, fresh out of training down in Hurlburt, we knew how to fly the airplane. We knew how to operate the weapon system, drop stuff off of it, fire stuff. But now we're going to be in theater. So we have to know what radio channels we're going through, what command facilities we're going through, what things as rudimentary as altitudes. We're operating up in a mountainous area. We have certain minimum altitudes that we have to abide by for transit, for driving through, and for making weapons deliveries. And then we have to know that the exception to those altitudes are when there are troops in contact or SAR, Search and Rescue missions. And then the altitude restrictions go out the window. But, all of this stuff is part of that theater of operations. So you get 5 rides, squadron policy. You get 5 rides in a 2-seater to learn all this. The first ride is the new guy, not students, we're new guys. New guy in the right seat, and the experienced guy, squadron IP, in the left seat. And then the next 4 rides in the left seat with him observing, advising, helping along. And at the end of that, you're pronounced a squadron wingman. Okay, and then you begin your transition from there. Very first ride I flew with Al Roberts. Very first ride, my orientation ride. 2-seat, A-1E. I'm in the right seat observing as I'm supposed to do. And we're going to go up into northern Laos, the barrel roll, to conduct the standard squadron mission, Firefly mission. The standard mission basically is you get briefed on a target. Okay, go hit this target. You get briefed on the threat that could surround that target. But in our squadron, we also, partially in training for the Sandy mission, we were usually given 2 or 3 sets of jets were fragged to us that we had to act as forward air controllers to put them on targets. And have the pictures and the briefings, their alternate targets and all this stuff. So we'd go up there with quite a mission load in our heads. And under the wings, quite a load of different kinds of ordnance for different purposes. A standard Firefly mission, for example, would always include 1 pod, 7 rockets of Willie Pete. And in the pre-flight, we would select the singles position so that each time we fired, only 1 rocket would, rather than the whole pod, get 1 rocket, mark it, talk to the jets that have come to you. And again, that's stuff that we had to learn in that theater orientation. We were forward air controllers also. How to talk to these guys, how to observe them, all that. Very first ride. So we're going off with all this stuff on, sitting in the right seat, all this stuff on the airplane. We got about 50 feet in the air. The wheels are coming up and the engine quit. The engine quit. I looked over at Al. He says my eyes were about that big. I looked over at Al. I reached down, I grabbed the ejection handles. So I'm ready to eject on his command. He reached over and we had 2, kind of like the latch that you use to open your hood on your car. We had 2 handles under there. They were just a cable to something. Well, the cables were to the manual releases for everything under the wings. So he pulls the 2 cables and 15 external stations are immediately unloaded. We're about 50 feet in the air. One of those was a fuel tank, but it all drops. And I'm expecting an explosion. I'm expecting with the engine to be, for Al to say, bail out, bail out, bail out. And the engine catches. The airplane does kind of a little torque swaddle right there. And we start climbing out. We climb out. He declares the emergency. We turn up to the downwind position, a high downwind, because we have to set up for the position as if we were going to have to glide to a landing, which, of course, I'd never done in training before, never done before. But anyway, I'm watching all this. The engine keeps running. We go around to what's called the low key position, base leg, still running. He puts the wheels back down. They go down. The airplane engine belched and coughed a couple of times. It kept running. He set us up, and we landed. That was my very first ride. It's like, welcome to Southeast Asia. And there was a big discussion after that in the squadron and it was decided that that should count as ride number one. I don't have to ride in the right seat for the next one. I get to ride the left seat. I'd been through, the briefing and the pre-flight of the weapons and all of that. So, go ahead. So I did my checkout and began my career in the squadron. One of the things that has to be remembered about how the manning for the war was conducted, you have a squadron. It doesn't matter whether the squadron is a jet squadron, a forward air control, light propeller squadron, the A-1 Skyraider, whatever. Those squadrons had to be manned on a one-year basis. Everybody in the squadron was there for a maximum, usually, of 1 year. And every position in the squadron had to be formed from those people who came over for 1 year. Your element leads, your flight leads, your flight commanders, the ops officer, the stand eval guys, everybody in the squadron had to be elected to, appointed to one of those positions within 1 year's experience. So you were always looking at somebody who was there for a definite time period, and we have to see what that person can do in just a very short few months and get them into one of these positions, because those necessary positions always have to be manned. Now, I was there for 1 year, like everybody else. I was there for 1 year. I was a first lieutenant right out of pilot training. In my year, and this is bragging now, in my year there, I made the progression up the element lead, flight lead. I was never selected as a flight commander because that's a rank thing also, but I was selected to be a squadron IP, a squadron instructor, again for such tasks as this theater orientation. I became a night IP, a night combat IP for the squadron. I became a Sandy. And again, in our squadron, the Sandies were appointed. Okay, they were appointed basically on flying ability and what was considered thinking in the air. Okay, so I was appointed into the squadron. Not everybody in the squadron got selected for Sandy. It's a unique mission. The search and rescue mission demands an awful lot of you. And in the build up to that, you have the other flight leads, flight commanders, ops officer, squadron commander, looking at that person and listening to reports on how that person performed in the standard missions and made decisions about whether they should be elevated into the Sandy structure. Well, I was elevated into it. I was a first lieutenant, and I ended up participating in 12 SARs. And in those 12 SARs, on 2 of them, I ended up being what we call Sandy low lead. It's the Sandy 1 or Sandy low lead position. And I'll go into the SAR structure here in just a minute. But I got into those. So I got every position I could while I was there. So I felt like I had, flying-wise, I had accomplished a lot while I was there.
In 12 months.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot of climbing.
And again, not everybody made it. I was there, again, I'll reiterate that I was one of the first 4 selected out of pilot training, that had the choice of selecting what we wanted. And of course, it was my desire. So in any flying position, anywhere, it really helps if that's what that person wants. And that's what I wanted, and I did it. The Sandy structure was being, it had been finalized by then. My predecessors over there that had been there for a while had come up with, and we were following their examples, the basic search and rescue package would consist of at least 4 support airplanes, closed air support, but Sandy airplanes. It would consist of 4 airplanes. The helicopter package, or the helicopter part of that package, would consist of 2 of them. Okay? So now you had a flight of 4 Sandys, 2 elements. And those elements, one element was to be the low element. Okay? And one element was to be kind of the backup. Same thing with the helicopters. One helicopter was designated as the primary pickup airplane. He's the low chopper. And the other one holds back, just like the other 2 Sandys, and he's designated as the backup or the high chopper. One more part of that package is the Kingbird. Okay, a C-130 with people on board who are supposed to understand the SAR scenario, and because there's several of them, one of my colleagues said riding sideways, but they're setting in a command post in the air, and they've got multiple radios, so they can help coordinate for resources required for the for the rescue. They can help coordinate other threat information that they receive, pass that on as necessary, etc. Okay. The low element, Sandy 1 and Sandy 2, regardless of what their number was that day. One of my pickups, I think I was Sandy 9 or Sandy 11, just because it had progressed that far that day. But when you're low lead, you're Sandy 1. Okay? When you're low lead. The leader, the low lead, is responsible for A, finding the survivor, and B, assessing the threat situation. That's his primary jobs right there. And there's some other things that have to be done, but those 2 things are paramount importance. You've got to, in our day and age, it had to be day VFR and visually find the survivor. Number 2, you've got to assess the threat. And you're not assessing the threat to, can I, the low lead, survive what's being thrown up? Can a helicopter hovering 50 feet above the ground survive it? And can a helicopter doing 160 knots make it into that area, transition from a couple of thousand feet down to 50 feet, and then make it out again? So that's what the Sandy low lead is thinking.
Now, their pickup could be very quick or 10 minutes. I mean, for a hover for them.
It depends on a couple of things, but one of the main things is, where is the survivor? Okay, again, Sandy low lead finds the survivor, visually says he's right there beside now comes your ability to transmit ideas. Not just, oh, he's over there beside the tree. He's over there near the river. Okay. When you're 3 miles back coming in looking at it, that tree doesn't mean anything. Okay. That river doesn't mean anything. You've got to be specific. You've got to talk. What helps is to be able to mark the spot. You don't necessarily have to put the mark right on top of the survivor. You can put the mark over there and say, if you'll go 100 meters left or 100 meters south, you'll see a tree that's partly broken hanging over, a descriptive. The other thing is, and we talked about this earlier, the survivor needs to participate in this. The survivor needs to help out. Yeah, he's got a can of smoke he can pop, but he needs to get into a position where when he pops it, he's not exposed. When he pops it, if he's got it, he needs to be ready for maybe some change. Needs to be ready to call out ground fire, etc. Okay, so that's what's going on between the survivor and Sandy Low Lead. His wingman, Sandy Low Lead's wingman, the number 2 guy, now he has to act kind of as a forward air controller and an information processor to transmit as needed down there, either to Low Lead, okay, back to the helicopter, or up to the, again, supporting jets. Okay, they may not necessarily be jets, they may be other Skyraiders, but the support aircraft. For example, in one SAR that I was involved in, because of radio difficulties that Lead was having, we changed and I became the Low Lead and he backed up a little bit. But our plan there, it was a Chapon area.
Can you tell people what Chapon was like? Before we go any farther, I think it's important to let people know there were 2 really horrible places, Magia Pass
and Chapon.
And why was it horrible?
Chapon was right in the middle of the structure that we call the Ho Chi Minh Trail in central Laos. Okay, kind of, it's the way Laos is shaped. It is leading into central South Vietnam, and it was a major supply route. Well, as a major supply route, it was defended. It was defended heavily. Chapon itself was not in the mountains. It was between the mountains. So it's down in a relatively level area, but there were lots of foothills and karst rock structures down there. There was a river that flowed through it, a major river, a couple of roads. But again, this is a central part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So they had a lot of defense to it because they had trucks and bicycles and soldiers passing back and forth all the time, bivouacked, whatever, marching into South Vietnam, returning back up toward North Vietnam to get replacements, get fixed, whatever. Heavily defended, but again, relatively level. The hills weren't that big. So down there in the Chapon area, I'm down there. We had to change positions. It's a beautiful day. It's clear blue, no clouds, no rain, no nothing. And so I get down there, and one of the things that the Low Lead does is what we call trolling. Okay? We make it so that the gunners can shoot at us. And then we have to assess them. Okay? Part of assessing the threat. what are they shooting and how well are they shooting? How are they doing it? And that day we had already figured out, the earlier guys had already figured out that there were a couple of gunners that were good gunners. And they would shoot, and the other guys around them would just kind of match their fire. Very common technique, very common. So now I'm down there, and we find a couple of those, and we find out who else is firing down there. And then the technique is to call one flight of jets at a time to go for one specific gun position and kill them. And that's what I did. And we'd already started that process when we had to change leads. But I continued it and just get a set of F4s come in. F4s come in, they've got 6 500-pound bombs or 8 500-pound bombs, and a lot of shooting going on. So I'd brief them when they got turned over to me. I'd brief them and tell them I want one pass, haul ass, but I want them good. Go manual. And we'd kill a gun. And then we'd go to another one, and we get those airplanes. We'd kill a gun. While I was down there, I killed 4 gun positions. And they then shut up. They decided we were serious about it. They shut up about it. The bad guys, the NVA, they quit. Okay, then we went down there and we set up for, and this was almost a textbook thing, we set up for the pickup. The pickup consists of, okay, guys, we're ready for the pickup. Okay, so you've got the agreement that the survivor's ready for it. You've got the agreement that Sandy Low Lead thinks it's a survivable environment, not a sterile environment, but a survivable environment. The helicopter agrees, and he's going to come in. So the helicopter comes in, and then the other 2 Sandys will either get behind him and cover and look for ground fire coming up, or out beside him. But we want it to end up being, again, this is the classic stuff, and this is what happened that day. We end up with the helicopter approaching the survivor, slowing down for the hover, and the 4 A-1s going into a daisy chain, about a mile across, something like that. A counter left-hand, it was left-hand turns.
And did you not climb and descend at the same time so somebody was always in a firing position?
Well, in the daisy chain, the biggest deal was to set up your daisy chain so that everybody's on one of the cardinal points all the time and looking around. And then when a threat came up, you could easily make the decision. Okay, in order to do that, I need to pop up here, roll in, and shoot at them, or I can stay right here. And in my case of that particular day, I was very, very lucky. I was in the circle, and I came around, and there was a dry, rocky creek coming out through the trees, and I saw a squad of soldiers at the Hup 2 with rifles coming toward the pickup. And I was in a position just to dip my wing, lower my nose, and 4 20-millimeter cannons through them. It discouraged them. And then you just jump back into position again, like that. There were variations on the theme that we used at times with our smoke CBUs, with getting if we had a forward air controller, an OV-10 or an O2 with us, we could get him at the same time to get jets to come down and put some covering fire, certain areas, various. Again, those are the things that the Sandy Low lead had to think about, work out, all that. In this particular case, like I say, it was almost textbook. Almost textbook. The helicopter came in, hit the hover. Survivor had popped smoke. Survivor was picked up. We were in the daisy chain. A couple of us had fired a couple of times from the daisy chain. For the exit, what you want to do is you want to try to get two of the airplanes, whichever element is in the right place, get two of the airplanes to go in front of the chopper to look at the exit area as the chopper is now climbing up. But he's only going 140, 160 knots. So are we. We're doing 150 to maybe, 250. Maybe 250 is what we're doing. But anyway, you try to cover the chopper on the weld so you get an element in front if you can, and the other element get behind. And again, look for the threats and all that. And of course, if the chopper gets in trouble, the element that's in the back looking at the situation is the one that is easiest to call out possible solutions to the chopper. Go right, go down that valley. If you have to set it down, looks like there's a clearing up ahead of that sort of thing. Okay, and just that's an example where, again, a textbook example, I think, of one that worked out. All the pieces did kind of what we expected them to do, and it worked. We got the F-105 pilot out of there. A while ago, you were asking about, well, what do you do with the survivor? Well, we took them to our base, wherever the choppers were going. Those were our choppers, Jolly Greens, so we all went back to NKP. Well, when we get back to NKP, we put the survivor, if he's not wounded, we put the survivor through a little stress test. We make him go to the bar. We make him drink stuff. We toss him around a little bit sometimes. Make him welcome, in other words. And then they probably end up going to the hospital for the night, to spend the night there for their post exercise examination. I had the good fortune one time of, after we rescued the guy, we got him back to the base and fed him some whiskey and beer and stuff like that, and then let him have a good night's sleep. He was an F-105 driver. Now, the 105s, this was down at Takhli. The 105 guys, of course, are always glad. They had a lot of people shot down. They were always glad, and they had a pretty good little routine worked out down there. And so the next day, we're going to fly this guy down to his base, Takhli, in the helicopter, in the Jolly Green. And squadron commander says, hey, you want to go with them? You were there for the pickup. You want to go with them? Sure. See what they do. We go down there and we land, and the helicopter is greeted. They've got the word. One of their guys is coming back. They've got the word. So the helicopter is greeted out there on the flight line with lots and lots of squadron mates. And they have a blue Air Force pickup truck with an easy chair on the back of it, an ashtray, big cigar, and an ice bucket of champagne. And they do a little tour around the base, and guys are escorting it with bicycles. They're shooting off pin gun flares. a couple of the Thai gals in the fancy dress and the big necklaces greeted him when he came off. They showered him with champagne and then took him to the club and beat him up some more. Okay, so it was a good rescue. It was a good recovery, classic recovery, and classic return to base 2 days after he'd taken off. A follow-on to that story is that that evening at the club, we're in there, and hey, you were the Sandy. Look, yes, I was. You want to go flying tomorrow? Ops officer of the squadron comes over and says, you want to go flying? Sure. So I go out on an F-105 mission the next day, sitting in the back seat of the number 4 airplane.
Wow.
And on that one, I managed to set a little notch for myself. F-105 that flight was loaded with 6 750-pound bombs on the center line. Pretty standard. And the 105's got a gun. It's got a 20 millimeter Vulcan cannon. We go out, and another nice day. Central Laos again. Another nice day. We go there and rendezvous with a forward air controller, an O2 FAC. Now, the 105's up around 15,000 feet. And the O2 is down around 6,000 feet. See, way down there. We rendezvous with him. He's got a target for us. They've got a pre-brief, and he shoots his smoke. Okay, from my smoke, do so. The guys, each one of them make one pass, and 6 bombs come off, and they're good. They're manual bombers, like we were. They're good. It works. They come off, and the FAC says, okay, you guys have any more playtime? And our flight lead says, yes, we do. What do you have left? We have 20 Mike. Good, I've got military pack animals. Military pack animals is a euphemism for water buffalo. Okay. And you make the argument that, yes, as military pack animals, they can be transportable food, beef, or they can be carrying stuff, which we often saw that. But anyway, he says, I got military pack animals. And he starts describing it. We're up there orbiting, again, about 14,000 feet. We're up there orbiting, and he's talking about this and that, this tree line and this creek line. From up there, we can't see it. The guys can't see it. They're busy flying their jet in a circle, looking around for threats, watching for, SAMs, etc. Can't see it. And I'm sitting in the back seat of number 4 doing nothing but twiddling my thumbs, and I see them. And I tell my pilot up there, I said, hey, Red, I see them. I see what he's talking about. It's exact, got him. And Red calls up to number 1 of the 105s, calls up to the flight lead and says, hey, we got a FAC up here with us, and he sees the target. Okay, you guys work it out. You're cleared in. So lead gives the lead to Red, my pilot, and he says, well, what do I do? And I tell him, I said, okay, let's go here, here, here. I said, okay, now roll in left now, about 40 degrees. So he rolls in, and I'm looking through the glass in the back. I'm looking over his shoulders, either side. And I give him a little bit left, a little bit right. And I said, okay, see that tree line? See that hut? He says, I see him. So he cuts loose with a 20 millimeter, squirting at him. And the other guys behind us see where he's shooting, and they come in and shoot the area. And the FAC says, good job, guys. Very good. He got about half of them. Okay, cool. And then we leave, and we go back to Takhli. as far as I know, I'm the only guy that has fact a set of 105s from a 105 over there.
And got half a herd of water buffalo.
Yeah, he says you get 50, says 100 over 100 on your main target, bomb target, and he says 50 over 100 on the military pack animals.
Wow.
And we go back and debrief that and all that stuff. But
so what did you, as you progressed in your career, where did you wind up, Jim? I mean, I know you were A-1. What else did you wind up flying as you went through?
Most of us that came right out of pilot training into the A-1 ended up going back to the training command as instructor pilots.
Okay.
Okay. That's just the way it was then. They didn't have any place to put us. Really, in the Air Force, we didn't have experience in anything else. So most of us that were right out of pilot training went back to the training command as IPs. The four of us, for example, that had graduated together from various bases, the four of us were, when we called the personnel center, we were told, okay, you can have SAC or ATC. Well, that was an easy question to answer. We'll take ATC, thank you. Air Training Command, rather than SAC. Okay, B-52s or KC-135s. Very easy question to answer. Okay, Military Personnel Center, and this is over the telephone at night, in the middle of the night, because of the time difference. Okay, I think maybe the next night when we called them again is when we got the answer. So all of you going to the training command and you're all getting T-38s. You're going to be T-38 instructors. I raised my hand and I said, no, not me. I want to be a T-37 instructor. I want to instruct, not polish. Okay. But MPC, bless their hearts, they did exactly what we wanted. I got a T-37 instructor pilot position at Williams Air Force Base. I went to Williams. I was there for a little over 2 years as an instructor pilot. Because I was considered experienced, okay, rather than somebody who had just gone through pilot training and flipped back to be an IP again in pilot training. We call those guys very politely FAPEs. Impolitely, we called them plowbacks, but I was experienced. So I was given a lot of latitude in what I did, and I was given the problem children to fly with, and I was also moved from my position in the squadron up to academics to be a platform instructor, okay, which I really liked. An instructor, a ground school instructor, a platform instructor, whatever you want to call us, you get to meet the whole class and interact with them. You get to fly with different flights, and you get to fly with students at different levels in the T-37 course. T-37 course is about 4.5 months long, okay? Almost half a year that they're there in the T-37. And as an attached pilot, you can call down to the squadrons, or they'll call up and look for instructors, but you can fly with the senior class, or you can fly with the freshman class. You can fly formation, or you can fly basic instruments. So I really like that.
Okay.
I can fly at different levels rather than following one class all the way through. Okay. Same thing on cross countries. As an attached guy, I could fly all the cross countries I wanted. And at that time in the syllabus, they were fun. You got an airplane for 2.5 days. It was yours. From Friday afternoon to Sunday afternoon, your airplane.
I'm thinking it was Ron Smith that told me on his cross-country tour, somebody flew. I'm thinking it was Ron. Took him down through the Grand Canyon.
I did too.
Oh, did you?
Okay, when I was a student, quick word about Ron Smith. At Williams Air Force Base, I lived on base. The neighbor, backdoor neighbors, right straight across the greensward there, was Ron. Ron lived right behind me, and he was a T-38 IP, but he started questioning me about the A-1. He says, "I want to do that too." I was his inspiration to get into the A-1.
And then you look at the missions that he flew and the people. He said, I was talking about that with someone else. I said, you don't know who you inspire when.
True.
But there's this line. It's almost the ripple effect, the butterfly effect of people that you have an influence on by something you've done one way or the other.
Ron told me a couple of years later, he says, you were the one, you're why I went to A1s.
Attaboy.
And he was good. He was good.
You shared the pride of every mission with somebody like that, I imagine. Just a little bit inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So somehow, Jim, I'm not saying you can brag about this, but you could take credit for Oyster 01 Bravo. You're the inspiration that got the guy there to find the guy that's been down 22 days.
Yeah,
You need to tell him that today. Go, I just realized, without me, you'd have been nothing. See what he does.
Well, I won't say it that way because Ron's the kind of guy, like a number of these guys that show up at these reunions. These guys right here, every one of those guys, they still feel the pride and they weren't the squadron guy who just sat there and did their time and left. They were not these guys.
No. This is a pack of alphas.
Yes, they certainly are.
I watched a few of them operate when I was in Dayton, Ohio with them. Mm-hmm. And I said, the most interesting thing I've ever seen is a group of alpha males discussing what was going to happen. And I said, the amazing thing was everybody's out of the military now, but the highest ranking officer gave the final word. It was this great discussion. Mm-hmm. And then I believe it was Tex. Fellas, I think this is the way we're going to go. And that was the end of the discussion. That was like, that was fantastic. Oh.
Entree.
Hello.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were doing it.
What's it?
Okay. I just want to tell you I'm back. I'm cooking the room, okay?
Thank you, dear.
All right.
We're just wrapping up. So we'll be out just a bit. No, dear. You're good. I'll come down and get that other card from you.
Somebody else is here.
We're good. Lucky man right there.
Yeah.
Very lucky man.
Tex showed up at Willie as a student. And when he showed up as a student, let's see, I think I was about to leave there. But he and I think it was Tex, that couldn't get an airplane for the reunion, so we went in my car from Williams Air Force Base to here. I think it was Tex.
Very good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He did well. But yeah, this group is an exceptional group, and I thoroughly enjoy. I've been the president of the association now for a few years. We were having a reunion here in, I think it was 2013. 2013, we're having the reunion. Rocco D. Felice was a longtime leader, and he stands up at the business meeting and says, guys, I quit. I don't want to be the president anymore. He says, for Christ's sake, I'm 80 years old. And okay. And so they asked for nominations, and I got nominated. And Doc said, well, if you'll take it, I'll be your vice. Cool, we'll do it. That's what we've done.
Good leaders. That's another list of accomplishments, just like when you went in that year.
No.
You never stopped leading.
We had a group, a spinoff from the A-1 Association. Several of us talking together said, we come here to these reunions and we tell each other our war stories. But we've got a new generation of people out there in the regulars that we can talk to and tell them our war stories. And we formed a group. Okay. We somewhat facetiously called it the Society of Combat Search and Rescue. And we got together and we chose our officers, etc. We called our leader the Exalted Grand Poobah.
Who was that leader?
The first one was John Carlson. And we called the treasurer, his wife, we called her the keeper of the purse. And we had 15 meetings. We went for 15 years, and we would go to an active duty base. And, but it was a once a year trip. But we went to an active duty base, and at that active duty base, with some kind of connection to SAR, we'd go to that active duty base, and almost all cases we stayed on base. In almost all cases, a single squadron, well, in fact, in all cases, a single squadron was designated as our host. And we would go for a week. We'd go on Monday, on Tuesday and Wednesday, we would debrief SARs. The guys would stand up in the front, like you saw yesterday, map, and up on the panel there, in the front of the room, would be at least one of the Sandys that was involved in that SAR. And then the other players up there could be a PJ, a Jolly Green. Once we had an air traffic controller, again, that participated in this thing communication-wise. We've had survivors up there. We've had non-survivors, descendants up there. But we would debrief this thing, and we'd have the active duty guys in there. And a lot of times during the week, of course, you've got regular operations. So we'd have different people coming and going, but here in this ship, and all of the combat squadrons today have got bars. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
They may share it with another squadron, but they do. And one of the important parts of it is bar talk. You go in and you have a beer and you talk with this guy, and this guy comes over and asks you questions and all that. Then usually on Thursday, they would give presentations to us. So they would show us and tell us how things are done now. And for example, we were hosted by a PJ squadron, PJ training, a pararescue, PJ squadron out at Kirtland, New Mexico. That's where they were training then. And they would bring in all of their equipment and show it to us. The newer survival radios, the inflatable boat. One of the things that people don't realize about PJs is they wear two hats. They have a Air Force hat, their PJ on, the Jolly Green. but they also have a, what's it called? It's not separate command. It's a, sorry, I can't think of the word right now, but they have a position with the dedicated rescue forces inner service. The SEALs,
Yep.
the Green Berets, the LERPs, PJs are all part of a team they train toward, and in any given special ops situation, you can have a Marine helicopter flying a team of Air Force PJs. You can have an Air Force helicopter flying a team of SEALs. Okay, it's a joint command thing, but that's what they do. But anyway, these guys are showing us their stuff, and a couple of times we got debriefed on SARs that have been conducted since Bosnia, Syria, Kuwait, not Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. We got one briefing up at Nellis from the weapons school guys concerning a SAR that occurred, I can't say where, over in the sand pile. It was interesting. But those exchanges right there, we carried on, and then,
It's got to be gratifying to see where search and rescue has come from because you guys, you were the dawn of search and rescue. I mean, in World War II, there might be a PDY that would pick somebody up or whatever, but if you went down in the mountains, there wasn't really a way to get you out. And
there we uncovered more on search and rescue than you might realize. World War II and Korea. Okay. Korea, as the Korean War, is where it actually started getting organized and started taking shape. But the search and rescue was more for the isolated person, the guy down at sea.
Yeah.
Okay. It's more for the isolated person than it was for a behind the lines active combat pickup. That's what started getting finalized or formalized in Vietnam War. Vietnam, mostly because there were no lines. Okay. But that's where it began formalized, and that's where various outfits, various squadrons began actually writing down their thoughts on what a SAR package was. And it was amazing. There were at least 2 written documents, and unfortunately I don't have either one of them, but there are at least 2 written documents that you would swear were written by the same person, but they were written 2 different squadrons and a couple of years apart. But the answer seemed to be the same. That SAR package that I talked about is your basic. And then for each situation, you work from there.
It's amazing. Jim, I really appreciate the time. Is there anything else you want to chat about briefly, or are we pretty good where we are?
Well, I think that's fine.
I think it's fantastic.